Hi everyone, good morning. So let's start with the third chapter. We have completed the first two chapters in the last two classes, and we are going on with the third chapter now. And the third chapter, okay. So any questions from the previous classes, please?
Yeah, your voice always have an echo.
Mm,
It's hard to
it's not from my end. Somebody has to mute. I mean, you guys have to mute from your end. Whenever you want to talk, you can just unmute yourself and then talk. Yeah. Now I think it is gone, right?
Okay. Yeah, now it's good.
Okay. So we have done with the first two classes and now, first two chapters, and now we are going to discuss about the third chapter. Third chapter completely concentrates on the use of the SQL functions. You have so many SQL functions, and the use of the function is that to convert from one form to the other form, to convert from one form to the other form. A function is something that which performs some action. Function is something that which performs some action, and what kind of actions it will be performed by the functions, and what are all the different functions which we have available. So which performs the action, that is called as a function, and you have two types of function. One is a single row function, another is a multiple row function. Single row function means which acts on one row, multiple row function means which acts on multiple rows, but the result is one row. It gives one result, one row per set of rows, How this will work, that we'll see in the next chapter. And the single row functions, it will give one result per one row, That is the difference between the single row functions and the multiple row functions. One result per one row. So different functions will have a different syntaxes. Syntaxes in the sense you need to follow that whenever you are using it. So that is the syntax that you have to follow whenever you are using it. So that syntaxes will be covered in this chapter, and you will have a different types of functions. So functions takes a different argument. One function will take one argument, some other function will take different arguments and all those things. So we will see on what will be the use of each and every function. Functions are of different types. You have character functions, you have general functions, you have number functions, and you have conversion and date functions. These are all the different functions. It is a very big chapter, and at least it will take 2 days to cover entire things. So we are going to understand about each and every function available. So to start with it, first thing is to understand about the character functions. So what are the different character functions which will be useful whenever you are writing a queries, that you are going to understand now. So suppose, let's say I have a data which is available in the lower case, and I want to convert that into uppercase. So there is a function called as upper. Upper is a function which converts a character, which converts a word to the uppercase. So it takes one argument. Argument 1 as a string. So you can pass a string to the upper function. It converts into the uppercase. So now let's say I'm writing a query. So you have last name and last name. I'm converting the last name to the upper. I'm applying the upper function on the last name. So how many arguments it takes? That's why it will take one argument. That's why I'm passing the column name from which table? Employees table. From employees table. So when you execute it, so the last name whatever is available in the column, so it is upper, not one. P is missing. Last name, whatever is available in the database, it will be converted into uppercase. See here in the database, it is being stored as something like this. So when I've applied the function, it is being converted into uppercase. All the characters are converted into uppercase. All the characters are converted into uppercase. So whenever you want to convert a character or a word into a uppercase, then you can make use of the upper function. Then we can make use of the upper function. Similarly, there is one more function called as lower. Lower means which converts a character or a word to lowercase, which converts character or a word to lowercase. So to use it now, lower of last underscore name, lower of last underscore name, whatever the value that is being stored in the database, everything will be converted into lowercase. So let's try to execute this and then see, and then see. See here, whichever was capital ABEL, it is being converted into ABEL. So everything is in the lowercase. Everything is in the lowercase. So that is how the upper and lower functions works. Means one will convert all the characters into uppercase, another will convert all the characters into lowercase, all the characters into lowercase. And the other type of function is called as a init cap. So before understanding about the init cap function, let's understand about the table called as a dual table. So dual is a dummy table which is available in Oracle. So this table is created by the sys owner. Sys is a owner which gets by default created whenever you install the database. Sys is just like a one more user, just like your HR. So in a database, you can have a multiple number of users and sys is one user. So dual is a dummy table. It's just a dummy table which is owned by the sys user. So what does it stores? So if you use select star from dual, it will have only one row and one column. It will have only one row and one column. The column name is dummy. Column name is dummy. So this table gets created by the sys user. Sys user. Sys is a admin user. You can call it as a super user, which is available in the database. Which is available in the database. So select star from dual. When you use it, it is a one by one row column. So dual table can be used for temporary calculation. Suppose let's say you want to find out what is the value of 125 into 125. I don't know what is the value of it. So I can just use against the dual table. This will be retrieved. Select 125 into 125. The value is 15,625. So it can be used for a temporary calculation. Temporary calculation or temporary purpose for a transformation, you can use it. Okay, dual is a dummy table. You can use it against anything. So it will give you, whenever you are using it, it will give you only one column and one row. One column and one row. But when you are using it for a multiple columns, you can extend it. So now there is a function called as a init cap. There is a function called as a init cap. Init cap is a function which is called as initial letter capital. Initial letter capital. Suppose let's say I have a sentence which is having a two words, Init cap function converts each word first character into uppercase. Each word first character into uppercase. Now see here, I'm going to write a function here, init cap, and I'm going to pass the input as SQL course. I'm going to pass the input as SQL course to this SQL course from dual. So what will happen? It will convert S to the uppercase, C to the uppercase. Only the first letter, not all the letters. Only the first letter will be converted and all the other letters will be in the lowercase. So init cap means initial letter capital. Initial letter capital, right? So that is how you use init cap upper and the lower function. Upper and the lower function will be used, right? So any questions with these three functions so far? Okay, very good.
So you can use the intercap for the people's name, like your first name, they capital, then last name, the first letter capital also.
Yes. Yes. If you want to convert, then So let's say I have a full name called, let me just write one thing. I have a, so something like, so I'm using something like this. So when you try to use it, it will convert first name and the last name into uppercase. Right. Yeah. Somebody else has a question here. Like I was actually hearing a lot of echo. Sweta, whatever you're actually talking, I can't hear, and I'm not sure with others.
Hello, Karthik.
Yes. One can speak at a time, and others can be on the mute. One can speak at a time, and others can be on the mute. Yeah, Sweta, go ahead. Now, your voice was breaking in between.
I didn't get dual table, dummy dual table, Karthik.
Okay.
Your voice was not clear for me that time.
Okay. So the dual, a table is a dummy table which is owned by the sys owner. Sys is a default user which gets created. Just like your employee table and department table, you'll also have a table called as a dual, which is created in the sys user, whoever the user gets created in the database, they can access that table. So whenever you want to use it for temporary purpose, suppose let's say SQL course is something that which I'm using it for other purpose, I just want to query it against the dual. So this SQL course, whichever I'm using against the dual, will be converted. Since because it is one by one row, it will be converted and my row data will be displayed, right? Fine.
Yeah, okay, Karthik.
Okay. So how about Vani, what was your question?
Hello, Karthik.
Yes.
Okay, Karthik.
Yes. Go ahead.
Can you see? Move it up, Karthik. The screen. Karthik, last name, right? You need not to put in upper quotes, Karthik, here. Last name.
Yeah, here single quotes is not required because this is the column. So whenever you are keeping as a single quotes here, then it will be treated as a string. So whenever you are referring a column in the function, you need not to enclose in the quotes. If you are actually using a hard-coded string, hard-coded means which you are actually inputting, only in that case you need to enclose in the single quotes. Whenever you are using a column name, you don't need it.
Okay, Karthik. Can you repeat it again, Karthik?
Okay, so let's say when I have written a query yesterday, whenever I was writing something, so suppose let's say I want to retrieve the employees whose last name is King, So what query I have written? So employees where last name equal to King, right? So this is something like this. I have just used some query like this. So right. So if I'm using a column name here, I'm not enclosing in the single quotes. Even though that is a character, I'm not enclosing in the single quotes. Similarly, here whenever you are using a last name, you don't need that to be enclosed in the single quotes, right?
Okay,
Because that is a field name, so you
Yes,
don't need
it is a column name, so you don't need it. Yes.
I think SQL course is not in field name, means column name.
That's why you are enclosing in the single quotes. Yes, you are absolutely correct.
Okay, Karthik, I got it, Karthik.
Yes. Yes, Suchitra, what is your question? You can go ahead now.
Karthik, as you have written like all these functions like argument 1, so they can take one argument at one time. All these
Yeah,
functions like
so
upper,
yes.
lower, and in.
Yes, they can take only one argument at the same one at one time, and the different function will have a different syntax when you are using it. Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Argument like what are the queries that you are inputting in the table?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Karthik.
Thanks. Okay, so the next functions which we are going to discuss about is the character manipulation function. These functions are called as character manipulation functions. We are going to discuss about what is a substring and what is the use of Instring and what is the length function, and all these functions you are going to use, and also the trim, which is also called as Ldream and Rtrim. These functions are majorly used functions in the case manipulation. We are going to discuss about all these functions. So understand clearly when we are discussing about the syntaxes. So the substring function takes three arguments. Substring functions take three arguments: argument 1, argument 2, and argument 3. Argument 1, argument 2, and argument 3. Argument 1 is an input string what you are passing. Argument 1 is a input string what you are passing. Argument 2 is the position of the character. Argument 2 is the position of the character which you want to read it from. And the argument 3 is the number of characters you want to read. Argument 3 is a number of characters you want to read. So how does a substring function works? Let's understand. Let's say substring function will give you the part of the string. It doesn't give you the whole string. It will give you only the few characters in the string. It will give you only the few characters in the string. Suppose let's say I have a name called as a Sachin, and in Sachin name I want to read only the first three characters, or I want to read only the next three characters. Then you can use a substring function. Let's say you have a last name column which is stored in the last name column which is stored in the employee table. Out of last name, in everybody name, I want to read only the first three characters. I want to read only the first three characters. You got the requirement such a way. You got the requirement like this. Then how are you going to do that? So let's say I'm going to write a query now. Select last underscore name. So I want to read only the first three characters. Substring. So in which you want to read the first three characters? Last name. And the second argument specifies the position of the character. That means you want to read it from the first character, or you want to read it from the second character, or you want to read it from the third character. My requirement is that I want to read first three characters. That means I want to read it from the first character. And the third argument specifies that number of characters you want to read. How many characters you want to read? I want to read three characters. So give 3 from which is the table. Where is the last name is available? It is available in the employees table. So when you execute this, select last name this. So this will give you the information. So check the output how it is displayed. So here, so do check the output, how the output is being displayed. Once again, I'll just compare. So you have a name called as Abel. You have a name called as Abel. My requirement was that I want to read only the first three characters. That's why I have given the first position of the character as 1 and the number of characters are 3, right? So that's why it has given me A, B, E. And similarly, you see this name. You have Atkinson. What is his name? First three characters are ATK. ATK. So whenever you want to read only the few characters in your string, then you can use a substring. Let's say I'll rewrite the same query. I want to read first, I want to read the 3 characters from the 5th character. I want to read the 3 characters from the 5th character. So how it will appear? How it will appear? Let's say I want to read the 3 characters from the 3rd character. 3 characters from the 3rd character. So when you execute it, so check it. What is the 3rd character here? E, L. And you don't have any other character which is available. That's why it has displayed only EL. But see Atkinson, so 3rd character is K, so KIN is being displayed. Similarly Austin, 3rd character is S, STI is being displayed. So whenever you want to read a string from a particular position, then you are going to use a substring function. So that is how the substring function will be used. Suppose let's say I can also use this against the dual. So let's say I want to read the in this name I want to read the 5 characters from the 3rd character. 5 characters from the 3rd characters. Let's say I am using Sachin. So this is a name, Sachin Tendulkar, and I want to read from the 5th character. I want to read the 5 characters or 4 characters from the 5th character. So what is the 5th character here? Try to calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5th character is I, N space T. So what will be the output? This will be the output of your query. IN space is also a character. So you want to read only the 4 characters. So this will give you IN space T. So that is how the substring function works. It takes total 3 arguments. And then it will give you the value, right? So I hope it is clear to everyone. And I'm moving on to the next function. So the next function is an Instring function. So Instring function takes totally 4 arguments. Argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, and argument 4. So suppose I have a word called as Sachin Tendulkar, and in that I would like to find out when does a T is appearing. Like in the Sachin Tendulkar word, I want to know T is in which position. So it will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is the 8th character is T. It will give you the position of the character or a word. Instring will give you the position of character or word in a particular sentence. In a particular sentence, it will give you the position of character or a word. So let's try to use the same name. Let's try to find out. So when you use it, select substr, and I am using the same string. So let's try to understand first what is an argument 1. Argument 1 is an input string. Whatever the argument 1 that you are passing, that will be your input string. And the next one is argument 2. Argument 2 is a character that you want to find the position. Which character you want to find? That is the character. So the character or word, anything you can find, character or word. And the third one is from which character you want to find. This is the position of the character, from which position you want to find, And the argument 4 is the occurrence of the character. So in this, if you see, A might, suppose let's say I want to find out when does A is appearing. A might appear twice or thrice. So which occurrence you want to find out. So that is also will be identified. So now let's take the same example. Sachin Tendulkar example, and then try to write the query. So when you use an Instring function, concentrate here. So select Instring of, I want to use this name. I want to find out character A is appearing in which position. So I'm using A. And from which character I want to read? I want to read from the first character. And which occurrence? I want to find out the second occurrence of A. Second occurrence of A, not the first occurrence. Not the first occurrence, second occurrence of A from dual, from dual. So if you see, when does the second occurrence of A occurring? So 1, 2. This is the first occurrence of A. When is the second occurrence? Check. This is the second occurrence of A. So what is the position of that character? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 will return by your query. It is appearing second occurrence in the 15th position. That's why it is appearing in the 15th position. So in similarly, when you want to identify when does it is occurring the first occurrence, what is the first occurrence of A? Second character. So it will give you second. It will give you second. So you see here, so when does it is appearing? Second. A is appearing for the first occurrence of A is second. Suppose let's say whenever you want to find out the occurrence which is not present. Let's say similarly I want to find out the occurrence of A in the same character, the third occurrence. Do you have the third occurrence of A in the character? No. It is the first occurrence and this is the second occurrence. You don't have the third occurrence of A. So this will give you 0. This will give you 0 because you don't have A which is getting appeared thrice in a string what you have provided. That's why it is returning 0. It is returning 0. If you have a character which is available, then it will give you the position of that character. Similarly the word also can be used. Suppose let's say in a hello world, I want to find out when does LL is appearing in the hello world. Hello world, you have LL, something like this, LL. So I want to find out the word LL from the first character. What is the third occurrence of word LL? What is the third occurrence of word LL? So if you use word from dual, so this is the first occurrence and this is the second occurrence and this is the third occurrence. So you want to find out the third occurrence. So calculate, these are 6 characters, 7 plus 5, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17 is a third occurrence of LL, 17th character, sorry 16th probably, I might have missed one character while counting. So that is the 6th occurrence. So Instring function is used to find out the position of the character or a word and which occurrence you want to find out in a particular string. That will be returned by Instring. Instring always will give you the number. Substring will always give you the character. That you can remember. Thumb rule is that Instring will give you the number and substring will give you the character, right? So that is how you can use a Instring function. And the other function is a very simple function, that is your length function. Length function will always give you the number of characters in the string. Number of characters in a string. I want to find out the number of characters in a string. Space is also a character. Special character is also a character. Suppose let's say now select. You want to find out the length of Sachin Tendulkar. What is the length of how many characters are present in the name Sachin Tendulkar? So this you can use Sachin Tendulkar. So how many character, how many letter word, how many letter name? From dual. So if you use it, it will give you the number of characters as 16 and the space also it will count. Space also it will count. Space is also a character. Now I want to find out the length of last name, everybody's length of last name, and at the same time I want to find out the employees who are having a last name greater than 10 characters. Last name LENGTH, length of last underscore name from employees, because the last name column is in employees, and where I can also mention this length or whatever the function in the where clause. I can apply directly in the where clause where length of last name is greater than 10. That means it will give me, so let's try to execute the query without where clause first. So this will give you 4, 8, 6, all these things. And if I want to find out the names which are having greater than 10 characters. So it will give you only 2 names whose last name is greater than 10 characters. Whose last name is greater than 10 characters, right? So that is how you can use the length function. Similarly, just like a length, you can also use upper function, lower function, all these functions in the where clause. Where clause, order by clause, and having clause. Everywhere you can use all these functions. All these functions, right? So yeah. Yes, anybody has a question here, please? You can go ahead.
Yeah, Karthik, when will you use the Instring? What's in situation you will need the Instring? Even you give the example for real, like you need looking for some certain characters, so then you use the Instring.
Yes. So whenever you want to, let's say I have something called as a file name which is coming up, and I just want to find out whether I have a / in that file name or not. Something like that.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's a real-time scenario where you have to use an Instring to find out whether you have a / in that or not.
Okay.
Right. So that is one thing. And the next thing is about the trim. Trim function is used to remove the spaces. Suppose if you have the extra spaces, trim function will remove the spaces on both the sides of the string, but not in between the string. In between the string you have any space, it doesn't remove. It removes the spaces on both the sides. Let's say I'm taking again the same example. So see here, I'm applying the trim function. So select trim off. So I am actually appending the spaces on both the sides, and then applying the trim function. So if you output will be, it will remove the spaces on both the sides. See here, output is Sachin Tendulkar. I don't have any space before the string and after the string. So but trim function doesn't remove the space in between the words. In between the words, if you have any space, it doesn't remove it. And similarly, you have the other functions called as Ldream and Rtrim. Ldream will remove the spaces on the left hand side. Rtrim will remove the spaces on the right hand side. See here, Ldream, what is the result of Ldream? So it will remove only the left hand side. So see here, still you have a spaces on the right hand side. Similarly, Rtrim function will remove the spaces on the right hand side but not on the left hand side. So you have Rtrim and the Ldream as well, so which will be used, and then this, see here, you have on the left hand side still there are spaces, but it is not being removed by your trim function. So that is how the character manipulation function works, and the trim, Instring, length, and the substring, right? So here I am done with the character manipulation functions. Any questions on this, please? Okay, so that's fine. So next thing is about the number functions. So the number functions, you have 3 types of number functions. One is a round, truncate. And one is a round, truncate, and the Modulo Division. Let's discuss these 3 functions for today. And round is just like your round function in mathematics, what you have learned. So it will take a number, it will take an argument, it will take 2 arguments totally. Argument 1 and the number of decimals you want to round it to. So argument 1 is a number which you want to trim it. So argument 1 is a number, and argument 2 is you want to round it to how many decimals? decimals. So argument 2. So let's use select round off. Let's say I have 45.926 and I'm passing 2. I want to round it to 2 decimals. So 2, after 2 you have 6, which is greater than 5. That's why it will be rounded to 45.93. I want, after the decimal, I need only 2 points. That's why I'm just using it. Similarly, you can also use 0 decimals. If you apply the 0 decimals here, it will be rounded to 0 decimal values.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody has a question here. Please go ahead. Yes, Shweta, you have a question here?
Karthik?
Yeah.
No, I'm fine, Karthik. I don't have any questions.
Okay. I heard you are unmuting. I mean, I saw you are unmuting that's why.
Oh, okay.
So the next thing is about the truncate. Truncate also takes 2 arguments, argument 1 and argument 2. So truncate doesn't rounds it. It doesn't rounds the data. So if you use a truncate function, it will just remove the extra decimals which are there. So I want to truncate this 45.926. Instead of rounding, I just want to use truncate. So it doesn't rounds the value. It will just removes the extra decimal. It will remove the extra decimal. See here, if you execute this, it will give you 45.92. Similarly, if I apply the same function, truncate function, again 45.926, 0, it doesn't rounds the value. It will just removes the decimals, that's it. Whatever the extra decimal that you have, it will remove it. So the next thing is about the modulo division. Modulo division also takes 2 arguments, argument 1 and argument 2. It will give you the remainder when you divide the 2 numbers. So I'm using select modulo division of, I just want to use 500, 1500, 500. So what will be the remainder? 0 will be the remainder. So 0 will get displayed. Similarly, if I want to use 1600 with 500, what will be the remainder? Remainder is 100. So the 100 will be displayed. Modulo division will give you the remainder of 2 numbers. Right? So that is.
I don't get this. What you mean select map? You said 15. Okay, you said 1500, 500. That you mean you only need save 500?
Yes, 1500 divided by 500. What will be the remainder? It is
divided by. Okay.
Divided by. That's why it's modulo division. So this generally will be used to find out even number and odd number. How are you going to identify? So whenever the remainder is 0, that's an even number, and whenever is a remainder is 1, that's an odd number, right? So for that reason we'll use modulo division. Okay.
Okay.
So that is about the number functions and how to use the number functions, right? So any questions so far we'll discuss, and then I'll stop it for today, and tomorrow we'll discuss the date functions.